Let me get this out the way right now. If you coming to learn some hip-hop history, you welcome. Young, old, even haters, welcome to Kickback. But I'm not one of those think piece wave rider weirdo channels that seen it's popular to talk about rap beef and went and read a Twitter thread and watched someone else's video and just want some easy views for a recap. We taking this trip through about 20 years of hip-hop. If you remember when the Galaxy phones was the hottest shoe and started the whole phone-posit trend, if you remember when Nike SBs was damn near impossible to find, this video is for you. If you remember when Tisa snapbacks, a G-Shock watch, and Pile Chain was the idea of fresh, this video is for you. If you was ever on live mixtapes or Dat Piff when we crashed the site, this video is for you. If you remember they had us drinking Nouveau and Moscato for some reason, this video is for you. Or when Charles Hamilton weird ass was rapping on Sonic the Hedgehog beats. When Jay-Z wired some rapper out of LA $10,000 for 100 copies of this new mixtape Crenshaw before he was a household name. I don't need to fake like I'm part of the culture or get cosigns to talk about this. I'm 2016 J. Cole with no features.
Round 1, fight.
I wanna take you for a ride.
Just to be clear, I haven't heard Meet the Grams and I haven't heard Family Matters, so I don't know what he's doing in those records, and I'm not listening to him.
I wanna take you for a ride.
Believe it or not, I actually never wanted to make this video. Back in high school, Lupe Fiasco was in my top 5. But now he's like Marge Simpson voice actor. You just feel bad for him and want him to walk off into the sunset and retire.
You know what else I'm paying for? Sexy handymen doing chores around the house.
Now some of y'all read that title like, oh, here we go again with the clickbait titles. What's this video really about? No. Lupe really is a jealous pick-me. And you know the pick-me, also known as the not like other girls girl. Oh, your old lady complaining you sit around Sundays to watch 10 hours of football? The pick-me says she makes sure her man has enough cold beer and a bag of red tips every Sunday while giving you foot rubs and dries your feet with her hair like that one freak chick from the old book. Well, she would if she had it, man. See, the pick-me is constantly insecure about what she has. But how can Lupe be a pick-me? He's a guy. Well, turns out you're getting an impromptu lesson on gender in this video because anyone could be a pick-me. Male, female, they. And if that upsets you, joke's on you. The whole tips already beat you because I attacked their guy and they not even want to watch more than 2 minutes of this video. In this case, because of his jealousy of Kendrick Lamar, Lupe has been trying to get Drake to pick him. We're going to have some uncomfortable conversations about black nerds, black dysphoria wars, black nationalism, elitism, have some fun looking back at the blog era, and most importantly, the origins of Lupe Fiasco hatred and jealousy of Kendrick Lamar, and being a pick-me for Drake. To some people, Lupe Fiasco is the Grant Hill of rap. Grant Hill was a player most people expected to end his career with multiple finals appearances and championships that could possibly rival Michael Jordan's career. But because of brittle bones, he was constantly injured but still had a long career and is in the NBA Hall of Fame. If you're being honest, Lupe Fiasco is that basketball player we heard about as a high school freshman, had an okay college one and done career, and then went to the NBA where he was mediocre at best. Maybe he had a cool couple years where fans hoped he would grow into an experienced pro. What I'm saying, Lupe is Kwame Brown at best and Ben Simmons at worst. Or Derrick Rose, you know, I guess because he does have diehard fans at least. Okay, I promise y'all, that's the last sports metaphor. This is already a video about Lupe Fiasco. I probably scared off the 20% of women that normally watch my videos. Now, I did say no features, but I had a guest that begged to give me his 2 cents, and I didn't want to appear biased again, just to let you all know. I don't know what this guy is talking about. He just sent me an email that said, due to knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, 92 bricks. Yo, what's up, gods, kings, kaijus? They call me 92 bricks, and I just wanted to chime in because I see that this brother is hating on Lupe Fiasco. He ain't due to knowledge. Lupe Fiasco is one of the greatest rappers of all time. He made a song about dinosaurs. He made a song about samurais. He made a song about robots. Kendrick Lamar ain't never made a song about samurai. Lupe Fiasco's first album was called Food and Liquor. Y'all ain't even catching what he is kicking. I say y'all ain't even catching what he is kicking because he kicking and flipping and kicking and flipping and kicking and flipping and kicking and flipping. When his first album came out, he shifted the entire paradigm. His first album was called Food and Liquor because food, you gotta eat and consume what he is taking in. I don't even eat food anymore. I don't eat pork, I don't eat red meat, I don't eat anything with gluten. I don't even eat physical food. All I do is consume the sun. God gave us melanated people everything we need to live. If you out in the sun and you consuming it, that means your mind is righteous. If you need to consume food and use utensils of the white man, you are not blessed. The whole reason I made this video is Lupe keep trolling like a bitch.
Ain't you tired?
It's already enough videos on the Drake and Kendrick beef. I wasn't going to touch it. And then I think I'm an anime character. Weird ass Lupe keeps throwing rocks and hiding his hands. That's not a joke. He literally said culturally he's more Japanese than he is black. Lupe has been hating ever since Good Kid, Mad City was universally praised as one of the best albums of that era.
Are you a fan of Kendrick?
Yeah, I always been a fan of Kendrick. I'm not a nut hugger like you, but
I point out the best. Best is the best.
not the best. Let's stop that.
He dropped the best album of the last decade.
Here we go.
Look at him, decade.
I'm banned from talking about the beef, and this is not beef room. But I just want to let you know I see you laying your fork in the sand on where you stand on things, and that's commendable for me.
I haven't listened to any of the songs.
I did not know that.
Yeah, that's baffling to people. I stopped listening. I listened to Push-Ups and was the Ross response, and then after the Ross response, I haven't listened to anything. So I haven't heard any of the records. Family Matters, Meet the Grams, Not Like Us. I kind of tapped out.
Oh, so that's even doper that you just going off your sheer hate for one of them.
Even you, but I never dissed him. That's just a control response. And I wasn't even talking to him. I was kind of talking to his fans.
Well, you got some interviews where you are the opposite of me. The same way I have like interviews or just content pieces where people could surmise that, hey, this nigga might really hate that nigga. You have the same just on the other end. That's why I love that this is me and you.
I know the word classic gets thrown around a lot, but if you was of a certain age in 2012 when this album dropped, you understand. This album was being praised as a hit and classic upon release. I was 22 years old when Good Kid, Mad City dropped. It's the first album I ever remember the older guys I knew and worked with that only listened to GOATs like Jeezy, Nas, or Scarface agreed with the kids that this album is amazing and this kid from Compton might be next up. And just so you know, this video has no ad reads. It's brought to you by my patrons, so subscribe to the channel if you can and support my Patreon. I have to paint the picture for you. In the 2012 rap scene, the blog era rappers had officially become the stars of the scene. And if anything positive comes from this video, it's the fact Lupe Fiasco got me to talk about Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef after every other wave rider has beat the topic into the ground. Chapter 1. Lupe doesn't tell the entire story. So the late aughts to early 2010s were known as the blog era channel. See, I actually know what I'm talking about, and I was in the scene listening to all of that music back then. Hip hop is one of the only things I obsess about more than sports. It's agreed that the golden era of hip hop is from like 94, maybe a little earlier, depending on who you ask, to around 2001-ish. That 7 to 8 year run gave us some of the most legendary artist albums and work. Tupac, Biggie, Nas, Lauryn Hill, Outkast, Cash Money Records. Ended with one of the best albums of all time in hip hop, Blueprint 1 in 2001. It was the height of creativity, bars, fashion, delivery, album covers, hype Williams music videos. Record labels were still putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into just promotion. You just had to be there. We had shows about the making of music videos. And following that would be the gangster rap era. While gangster rap had always been part of hip hop leading to its popularity pre-golden era, with groups like NWA, Snoop Dogg, Tupac post-prison rebrand. During the 90s, groups like Wu-Tang Clan would definitely whoop your ass, and record labels like Rockefeller were funded by street money thanks to Kareem Biggs, Jay-Z, and Damon Dash. Endgame to go legitimate and work with a distribution company to keep Rockefeller independent as possible.
In the Haven introduced me to the game. Spanish Jose introduced me to Kane.
Like I said, during the era of Jose and Marcy, like Marcy was turning into something more violent. You know what I'm saying? Because now you had the older guys that was raised us was disappeared. Those dudes was going to prison and dying and tragic stuff was happening. So that next generation ain't have no guidance. It was just a lot of violence going on. So that's what made me move the trend. But me and Jay was so best of friends so many years already, it was just nothing for me to be like, yo, once I get down here and get in, I'm gonna come get you. And then he came.
The rappers with real street ties all realized that too much of that street stuff was bad for business. We had just lost Tupac and Biggie during this era. The sound was also more diverse. A Busta Rhymes, a Nate Dogg, Trina, 3 6 Mafia could all have their own way. The second major era was when gangster rap reached its peak. Whereas Jay-Z and Nas may have crossed certain lines, Nas claiming Jay was pressured to take the charge for Un Riviera getting stabbed, Jay-Z sleeping with Nas' baby mother claiming to have left a rubber on the child's car seat. None of us thought it would end in a loss of life, especially since outside influence had stepped in. Jay was closer to Rick Ross luxury rap, what that is now. The focus was nice cars, jewelry, champagne. Nas was the chosen one to rap, but he was more of a look inside the life than a gangster rapper. Even DMX, while more extreme, had an equal balance of party anthems, mackin' tracks, and trauma-filled tales and just gangster rap when you listen closely to his songs. The following era rap was different, at least in New York City, the mecca of hip-hop. A kid by the name of 50 Cent was on the rise, and the playful song will call out to every established rapper with the record How to Rob was the first shot fired. This being 1999, it was seen as pure entertainment, as it should have been. Jay-Z even responded to the diss with half a bar at that year's Summer Jam 5 minutes after dapping 50 Cent up backstage. Jump to 2003, Post being shot 9 times, and if I'm being 100% honest, I understand why they tried to smoke him, seeing how 50 Cent moves. Artists like 50 and Ja Rule, T.I., Beanie Siegel in the game all find themselves in constant beefs, and in T.I. and Bean's case, in and out of court and jail every few months it seemed like. And unless you had put in damn near a decade of working as an established artist, it was hard to get a break because gangster rap was so popular. By this time, the understanding that making legal money meant you made it and it's entertainment, so this is when the kayfabe should kick in, or in the words of Jay-Z, Hov did that, so hopefully you won't have to go through that. Now, during the height of gangster rap, even Rockefeller didn't believe in Kanye, but let me say this. I know all your favorite black video essays saying you're supposed to hate Jay-Z because he's a capitalist, yada yada. Please, go listen to the Blueprint 2 record, The Bounce, featuring Kanye West. The verse is trash.
Magazines call me a rock star. Girls call me rock star. What the f does that mean, Kobe Bryant?
You gonna look me in the eyes and say you don't understand why they didn't want to sign him? Keep in mind, this is pre-ghostwriters like Rhymefest, Sci-Hi the Prince, and Big Sean, just to name a few. It's just funny, people will spend an entire video trying to get you to not like Jay-Z or say he's overrated, then skip over the fact Kanye was a garbage rapper before others fixed his verse. And we have a lot of evidence that he had ghostwriters very early on. I know he's been a hero to some of y'all, but we gotta be honest. Kanye peaked as a producer 15 years ago. He buys beats and he has more ghostwriters than a Canadian. But anyway, during this era, it was very hard to become a mainstream rapper not named Kanye West during the gangster rap era. And that's where Lupe Fiasco comes in. Ironically, very early in his career, Jay-Z wanted to sign Lupe before his debut album was released, and Lupe turned it down. Jay went on to semi-mentor him, assist him in getting the record deal with Atlantic, and appear on his debut album, Food and Liquor, in 2006. While Lupe is somewhat correct, 2006 was still the gangster rap era with artists like The Game debut being hot as fish grease. But thanks to the Kanye effect, the second most popular subgenre at that time was what I call real rap. I don't really feel the term conscious rap fits because almost all high-level rappers make deep conscious tracks. How many records like I Can Feel It or Slippin' does DMX have to make to be considered a conscious rapper? Is Beanie Siegel not a conscious rapper? Listening to his records of his deep trauma? And yes, snap dance or ringtone rap was a thing from like 2004 to 2008 with acts such as Soulja Boy and D4L. But even as a teen, a lot of us knew it was just a fun trend. Folks weren't buying an entire D4L or Franchise Boys album. Please stop it. I say real in the sense that you could be yourself. Kanye was the middle class rapper rocking Ralph Lauren and Euro designers. A year later, one of the OGs of lyrical conscious rap, Common, would release B, his most commercially successful album at the time. I was 15 when this album dropped and I goddamn loved it, and it still ages wonderfully. The album is certified gold. 2 years later, Kanye would release Find Me Forever that also went gold in a month. See, Lupe Fiasco doesn't tell the whole story. I was a teenager during this era. Because of the bootleg man and then the cheap MP3 player, I listened to pretty much everything. When Food and Liquor dropped, I truly thought it was amazing, and a lot of people thought Lupe Fiasco was going to be some hybrid of Kanye West and Common with the few drops of Nas. Even when his debut didn't sell that well, it wasn't a flop, but his fellow Chicago peers Kanye and Common had proved it's possible to go against the grain and sell very well. 15-year-old hip-hop nerd John didn't care about sales. I also watched Lupe III late night on Adult Swim and wasn't trying to be a gangster, so I connected with him and his music. Thing is, the older generation seen what I could not see at the time. Lupe Fiasco was and is an asshole. I recently launched a podcast where we go back to albums at least 15 years old, replay them so nostalgia doesn't blind us, read reviews of that time and rate it. And anime nerds and men that still watch wrestling, I'm sorry to break it to you, but Food and Liquor does not age as well as we remember it. It's a musical embodiment of the 23-year-old college student that thinks he knows more than everyone and the adults in the room because he read a few philosophy books. Listen, guy, Lupe music just went over your head. You ain't do the knowledge. He's a samurai master. He got mad swords. Kendrick Lamar ain't got no swords. He could ride a skateboard. He watched anime only in subtitles. Lupe Fiasco pulls of the reference of the past gods. Lupe Fiasco, you seen his samurai skills. What does Kendrick Lamar do? Burpees? Wow, what's a burpee? What Kendrick Lamar do? Can sell out stadiums? I bet Kendrick Lamar can't fight the ghost. One more thing on the conscious rapper label. It's just a label. Lupe Fiasco is not changing the status quo of anything. The record labels have allowed him to say what he wants. It's just not interesting. Lupe Fiasco is closer to Umar Johnson than he is to Kwame Toure or Francis Fannin. The last 12 months or so, we've seen what really happens if you speak about and call things into question the media doesn't like. It's why everyone on YouTube has to dance around speaking on what's going on overseas or Bop Biddy being built in Atlanta. The fact that Lupe can still book concerts without them constantly being canceled by promoters shows you he's not as deep and revolutionary as he thinks he is or that his fans will have you believe. And that's okay. Just keep it real with people. Or in the words of Kendrick Lamar, he is not your savior. Chapter 2, the black nerd to conservative pipeline.
Right. If you want to become a bodybuilder, first thing you have to do is get into shape.
It's my personal
Logic's my
the
homie.
Farsi joke was good. The Farsi joke was good. That was good.
Yo, Logic is my homie
What do they
from
speak
Maryland.
Farsi? What do they speak Farsi?
In the Middle East, in Iran.
Okay, I just making sure. You're just throwing out random things. You don't know what you're talking about. We need to dumb it down.
This guy stinks!
You're going over people's heads. We'll dumb it down.
Lupe Fiasco seems like the type of guy who gets mad when Megan Thee Stallion talks about My Hero Academia and Naruto online because she's a casual and probably only watches dubbed anime. What I'm saying is, Lupe Fiasco is a nerd, but worse than that, he's the woe is me, black girls didn't like me, the hood kids called me white boy nerd. And he never grew out of it. Now, I've never claimed to be the coolest guy around. In fact, I was a shy, skinny, frail-framed teenager. I didn't put on weight until recently. But even through all of that, I never fell into the black nerd hole. As awkward as I was able to kick it with black girls, dark skin, brown skin, light skin, all by being myself. I know it was a touchy subject, but as one of the black women in my comments said when I posted about this topic, you niggas need to get over it and seek therapy. So many men are nerds about their interests, and I'm sure some Lupe defenders will say, yeah, but you guys are nerds about traditionally masculine things like sports and cars. See, Lupe is like Allen Iverson and Michael Vick for black nerds of a certain generation. Yes, I do listen to hours of sports podcasts because I'm trying to see if the Detroit Lions address that weak-ass secondary so we can make another playoff run. And I watch Pistons videos on surrounding Cade with shooters so he has spacing. But also, another man who nerd about this stuff, don't try and gatekeep. So what if women only want to watch the Eagles play because they find Jalen Hurts attractive? Eventually they might fall in love with the game after seeing the 2-minute drill end with the walk-off field goal to finish the game. It's not that Lupe Fiasco is a nerd, it's that he's a bitter nerd. Also, I'm not using the term blurred, that sounds corny as hell. It's like you guys asking to be made fun of. It's a problem with the entire nerd community. Because the things they were into in high school weren't that popular. Now, seeing attractive women or guys that look like the ones who would make fun of them get into Attack on Titan and Star Wars, they feel like they being kicked out of their own community. But let's be honest, guys. I was in high school when Iron Man 1 and The Dark Knight had just come out. It wasn't big as it is now. It was even guys who I talked to that wouldn't watch any movie unless it was rated R with mad violence. But you were not getting made fun of for being into those movies. Anime wasn't as popular outside of Naruto and Dragon Ball Z, but we were not making fun of kids for liking anime. Yes, a lot of them came off as weird. Now, if you were one of those ones with the rolling backpack and doing a Naruto run down the hallway, that's a different story. But that's high school. Do you know how many rappers are nerds? Contrary to popular belief, black men raised in community with all black people have interests outside of stick talk. But black men and a lot of rappers have nerd hobbies. Wu-Tang were huge fans of Kung Fu movies. Wale is a Seinfeld superfan. I'm willing to bet Jay-Z can talk to you for a couple hours just about his favorite watch movement. He's a legit horology nerd. Meg Thee Stallion is a weeb. Method Man is a Marvel Comics superfan from way back when. The difference being, none of these people seem like the types to make you feel bad for being a novice to their hobby. Wale once replied to me once when I told him he's actually the reason I binge watched Seinfeld when it was added to Netflix, because I listened to his mixtape series about nothing back in my 20s. He says so many younger black dudes had told him that exact thing. He let Larry David know a new generation discovered the show through his music. And keep in mind, Wale is a nerd, but he's secure in his nerd shit. He's not going to make some 22-year-old kid that just discovered Seinfeld and his mixtapes feel bad for being over 10 years late to the party. The same can't be said about Lupe Fiasco. Going back to his first album, it's really apparent he has some resentment toward black men and women. Now, just to get it out the way, I'm not going to be bashing nerds this entire section. Some of y'all cool, but like any niche, some of y'all weird as hell. I even thought I was a kind of nerd adjacent. I mean, I like DC animated movies. I was 20 something when Regular Show premiered and I watched every single episode. And then I made a YouTube channel and I realized you nerds cut different. I swear the cartoon nerds was having heated arguments online about if the goldfish from Gumball was black or not.
Dodgeball! Boom, 1 point. Boom, 2 points. Boom, 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 boom. Darwin, Raglan, Caspian, Ahab, Poseidon, Nicodemus, Watterson III.
It's at this point I realized I lost my nerd card a long time ago because I cannot care less. And Gumball is, in my opinion, the funniest show to premiere on Cartoon Network since Regular Show. I just thought there was animals and robots on that show. Now I'm 34, so maybe it's some generational thing I don't get. But also, that's the part of nerd culture that have us looking at you guys weird. I'm sure if I dig deep enough, it's probably something to do with more and more black people raising kids in the suburbs. And if you grow up as one of the only black kids in your school and neighborhood, you look at cartoon fishes black coded. See, that's the term I picked up from the Gen Z kids. When they watch a cartoon or something and they want to claim a character that's black or queer, even though it's not explicitly stated, they claim that character is coded. But back to Lupe. Like most things, it goes back to upbringing. I truly believe no one is born a racist, homophobic, or misogynist. Those things are taught, or they can be unlearned. So we have to look at Lupe Fiasco upbringing, or Wasul Muhammad Jacob, as he was named by his parents. See, Lupe is West African. I couldn't find his exact ethnicity doing research, but he's West African raised and a devout Muslim. Now it's the part where half of you all began to cope. Once I say one thing you don't like, leave a comment and stop listening. But we gotta have some real conversations that most black YouTube creators don't comment on, or they really skate around it. And that's the Diaspora Wars. Black Americans know exactly what I'm talking about. But when we bring it up, folks try and gaslight us like we crazy. There is a divide in how some, not all, but some first and second generation African and Caribbean Americans look at black Americans, or Yankees as they call us. And we cannot talk about the problems with Lupe without addressing them. Racism, but more specifically anti-blackness, is America's greatest export. It's been proven darker black men get sentenced more heavily than light-skinned black men. Darker-skinned black women get labeled as aggressive more than lighter-skinned black women for saying the same exact things. And to a lot of black immigrants, black Americans are seen as ghetto and ignorant. King Bach blew up on Vine because his whole thing was making skits about black men being criminals. King Bach is Caribbean. Joe Budden's clown sidekick, Queen's Flip, got semi-viral clips acting a fool doing his impression of a lot of obnoxious black characters from New York. Queen's Flip is Jamaican. DJ Academics blew up on YouTube with his War in Chirac series talking about black men in Chicago like they zoo animals. Academics is Caribbean. Now, is it not strange to you all that none of these men choose to parody their Caribbean upbringing for entertainment, but choose black American culture, worst aspects for entertainment? King Bach and his business partner, Lemuel Plummer, who's African, started Zeus Network, and there's multiple videos on this website talking about how that website and that company exploits black people, more specifically black women, for content. And now, I'm not saying this 100% proof they all look down on black American culture for profit. No. But after a while, you have to admit, it's more than just a weird coincidence. Like one of the biggest streamers around, Kai Cenat, whose parents are Caribbean, he found it funny to cosplay as a prison inmate for the entertainment of a mostly white audience, knowing the negative images put upon black men and human rights abuses treatment that they face in prison. And that's what he chooses to use his platform for, not spotlight a fella who's made a life change. And be very clear, if these people are a success, it's because a large white fan base. Black people only make up about 15% of the American population. We aren't the majority of their viewers. Now, to those still watching, don't think I'm one of those ADOs. Show me your papers, brother. You need to have 8 grandparents born in America to be black dudes. If we talking blog era rappers, Wale and Big Sean are in my top 5, and both men are proud Nigerian American. Compare that to the way Lupe Fiasco raps, but we'll come back to that later, because we have to talk about the other half of the equation. That's Lupe Fiasco being a devout Muslim. Now, I'm no means an expert on Islam, but what I do know is Lupe is a Sunni Muslim. So 9 times out of 10 we hear rappers or black athletes just convert to Islam, it's typically Nation of Islam, which is its own branch led by Louis Farrakhan, which could be an entire video in itself. But from my research, Sunni and Shia Muslims are considered the 2 main denominations. NOI, or the Nation of Islam, is looked at as an offshoot, and even not really real Islam depending on who you ask. Hey, I can relate. I was raised Jehovah's Witness. In a similar fashion, a lot of Christians don't consider them Christians, and vice versa, but we gotta move on. All of that to say, Lupe seems to see himself as a Muslim first and a rapper and samurai second, which is no problem. But if you like me and a lot of black people, you grew up going to some place to worship. Now, this is a safe space, and we can be honest. Most of y'all know I don't sugarcoat things when we being real. You most likely experienced your first run in anti-blackness and respectability politics in the black church, mosque, or whatever your place of worship was. From the way they speak about the way black people outside of the group dress, talk, wear their hair, sexualize young black girls, bodies, victim blaming, colorism. I've seen it all, and I'm sure most of you all have. It's the reason we see studies from all groups, but especially black people, leaving organized religion as adults at an increasing rate. Because people are fed up. I got too much going on to be looking down on black women because the church thinks long acrylic nails, box braids, and a maxi dress is ghetto. In fact, I like all of that on women. But as you become an adult, you still meet people who identify as Christian, Catholic, Muslim, etc. Now, it's the difference between D-Ray, your co-worker, who is a Christian because his mom and grandmother dragged him to church as a kid, and now he goes once or twice a year on Easter. And James, who goes to church every Sunday. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with either. I no longer practice any religion. I treat all people equally until they give me a reason not to. Unless it's an Ohio State fan, because fuck off. Now, I should get around to seeing a therapist one day to deal with my religious trauma issues I know I have, but I have very little tolerance for people that feel others should follow their belief and justify the bad in their organization to fit a narrative. It just feels weird. Like, it'll be people who, at one hand, say we need to end capitalism, misogyny of certain men and women, and I agree with all that, then say they a Christian and make excuses for why it's not the church that's the problem, it's this or that. Nobody. If we tearing down things that harm black folks, the tool of the slave master doesn't get a pass. And also, it just never feel right. This may not be everyone, but a lot of you relate. Like, you ever watching a video, like just something about the person doesn't feel right, then a few minutes later, they sneak in some churchy talking, you like, I knew it. You're just waiting for them to start copping, please. They talking about, despite all the racism and classism, religion, but black is the answer. Ain't y'all the same ones that said you don't fix capitalism with black capitalism? So is it Uchi Wally Wally or is it one mic? Now that I've got all of that established, you can understand why Lupe Fiasco as a person and artist comes off really cringe when you go back and listen to his old music. It's even more clear. Listen, God, Lupe has higher brain connectivity. He has rest and state insights. Everything he does correlates to the task at hand. He has a higher task output. He makes most creative music ever to exist. He did the knowledge. Oh, say can you see, or Jose can't you see? That's to my Latino listeners. They can see and they can hear what Lupe is kicking out because they are consuming it. Unlike you just didn't do the knowledge. It went over your head. Peace, God. Peace, Kaiju. Peace, Kings. If you would have asked me when I was in high school, I thought Food and Liquor, Lupe Fiasco first album, was going to age like Illmatic, Reasonable Doubt, or Ready to Die. Boy, was I wrong. The album gives off so much uppity Negro energy. And no, I'm different than these other rappers. I don't buy jewelry, drink champagne, or drive luxury cars, which will all be fine. It was his first album. He should be saving his money. But the truth is, Lupe doesn't know how to talk to niggas. And even back then, I don't think he ever seen himself as black, or at least African American. There's a lot of rappers who don't drink liquor or wear jewelry, but Lupe has so much youth pastor energy about it. In hindsight, I don't think he was pointing out the images depicted in rap at the time. It seems like he was scolding black people for enjoying life. Listen to a few bars off the record Daydream from his first album.
Now come on everybody, let's make cool. We need a few more half-naked women up in the pool.
He already on some incel red pill energy. I'm sorry, Lupe, but you prefer a bunch of grown women to get in the swimming pool with the one-piece bodysuit and shower caps? Old man yells at the cloud combined with black conservative idea of what black folks do at parties in their spare time, and somehow slut shaming. The rest of the entire album was being somewhat insightful while also fake deep and talking about America's involvement in the Middle East. Battle raps about skateboards and zombies on the Cool record. But like so many other religious and immigrant black people we talked about, it comes off as really insecure. I literally played this album front to back twice while researching this video, and it hurts me to say this, but I really believe Lupe Fiasco is closer to Kanye West as far as his politics than most are willing to admit. Lupe being from the west side of Chicago is very strange to me. He doesn't have a single track that appears to be directly to his neighborhood, but has multiple verses and an entire song about the war in Iraq at the time. I have to be honest, I don't think Lupe ever truly connected with Chicago. Maybe it was his upbringing being the child of immigrants and according to him being one of the smartest kids in his high school. Not only that, I don't think Lupe ever cared about Chicago. Now compare that to the way Kendrick Lamar talks about the negative aspects of black hood life on The Art of Peer Pressure from his debut album, Good Kid, Mad City.
Before we sparked the conversation, we seen 3 niggas in colors we didn't like, then start interrogating. I never was a gangbanger, I never was stranger to the funk neither. I really doubt it. Rush a nigga quick and then we laugh about it. That's ironic, cause I never been violent until I'm with the homies.
Peep how Kendrick puts himself in the same status of young, ignorant dudes, just doing things to seem cool because they teenagers. Throughout the entire album and his discography, Kendrick never looks down on his community. Rather, he's giving game or dealing with survivor's remorse. That's the difference. And it's funny Lupe can't seem to understand why his rap career never took off the way he wanted. Let's keep it a bean, y'all. Lupe Fiasco is not a very likable person. Listen to the way he talks about rap when fans ask him if he listened to Kendrick Lamar and Drake diss track from the genre he claims saved his life.
In response to a fan asking why Lupe hasn't listened to the tracks, he said, I thought would like the Sam Altman or the head of Blackstone, not the gang, jump off a conference call to listen to two dissing each other on the internet, and I had a moment of clarity that we care too much about things that don't mean anything, with all due respect.
Now, whether y'all want to accept it or not, it doesn't matter how well you make music if people don't want to vibe to it. Like, Lupe just has an air of arrogance to him. Lupe would make an amazing video essays, but he's not the person you want to drink with and watch the game. Imagine trying to watch the game and throw some brews back with Lupe Fiasco at the black sports bar. Yes, nigga. We know Nike and every company whose logo we see on the court is doing some type of exploitative work. While he tells you the brand of beer you drinking was started by some racist white guy in the 1930s. Then gets upset about black women twerking on the dance floor while the DJ plays a new Lotto track. People that actually been to black bars to watch a game, y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. Those vibes. And black women, if you still here, I'm sorry to tell you, but his respectability politics gets worse. I can already see the Dusty niggas comments coming out. Nah, brother, you don't understand what Lupe was kicking. Listen, y'all, Lupe was in my top 5 when I was a teenager. Then I grew up and realized how weird he is. Some respectable brothers still support Lupe. I don't, but a few do. Before we get to Lupe's other Manosphere Red Pill record, I gotta address this. A lot of y'all favorite creators sure do pick and choose which black men it's okay to diss. The big 4 at the time of recording this, it probably changed in a few years, are Jay-Z, Tyler Perry, Kanye Burrs, and Donald Glover. I would say Kanye West, but we all kind of agreed to no longer acknowledge him. But they ignore Lupe weird ass. Lupe, the guy that raps about dinosaurs and plays with toy swords. In the last month, I've seen multiple videos about Donald Glover being problematic, pulling up clips of his old stand-up, his weird ass early rap albums that I wasn't listening to that shit. Nitpicking scenes from Atlanta, his direction for the young woman on Swarm, and all the petite bourgeois blacks pat each other on the back and we really humbled that Donald Glover. Then they hate watched Kanye Bear's movie, You People, under the guise of, well, we have to critique it. Question. If you hated the shows Blackish, Mixedish, Grownish, and Black AF on Netflix, what possibly made you think you would enjoy a movie that's just a modern version of Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, directed by that same guy? I think a lot of us would have respect for some of that echo chamber uppity black creators if they just admitted they don't like the nigga and wanted to hate on him. I can respect that. We all can. We just seen an entire Juneteenth hate concert, which brings us back to Lupe Fiasco. Now, if you've watched my channel for a while, I said many times, I don't believe in hate watching. Sure, I'll watch something that's so bad it's good, like a Nollywood, low-budget romantic comedy. Go check out the Nigerian joint, Potato Potato, if you can find it. It's like so corny and adorable, I actually do love it. But I got money to make and people to see. I'm not terminally online to take things in I hate just so I can complain, even though it probably would make my YouTube channel grow a whole lot faster if I'm being honest. So in 2011, when Lupe Fiasco dropped the disappointing album Lasers, I didn't give up on him. A lot of my favorite artists have a bad or mediocre album, so I gave him another chance. And in 2012, he released Food and Liquor 2. I was 22 at the time, and this is when I finally tapped out, partially because he transformed into a full hater, which we'll get back to, in part because it was just weird as hell and I wasn't trying to hear those musty raps. And I can think of no better example than the record Bitch Bad. If Lupe wasn't such an obscure rapper with the younger generation, this record would be the theme song for people like Andrew Tate, Sneeko, and Fresh and Fit. And I don't even need to break the bars down. It's exactly what you think from that title. It's an entire song complaining about female rappers demeaning themselves, little girls shaking ass, you know, all the conservative talking points you heard when Cardi B dropped WAP. If it was any doubt before, Lupe Fiasco makes scaring hoes music. Preachy rap that majority of black inner city guys don't want to hear, and lyrical miracle flows rap fans tire of quickly. And that's why he doesn't have the place he and his last holdout of fans thinks he deserves. But what makes Lupe exceptionally high on the corny brother list is he walks around like he's so much better than the common rappers and working class black guys in the streets or legit. But the ironic thing is, his man's Chili Chill got arrested for trying to traffic like crazy weight. If you're a longtime Lupe fan, you remember him shouting out Chili Chill at the end of records. Lupe's early partner, when he first started rapping, served 20 years in the feds. And the way Lupe responded to this is very telling. He's more concerned with Middle East conflict than his folks in his own backyard or his partner doing time. While the Smarty Art brothers take every chance they can to tell you Jay-Z overrated, he did this or do that. Listen to the way Jay immortalizes his man's Emory Jones on the record, Lost Ones.
This is the operator with a collect call from
Emory Jones.
To accept the charges, press 1 now.
From that prison call to every lyric, even though Kingdom Come is one of Jay-Z's lower ranking albums, this record hits differently. Jay, along with many others, have touched on this subject. And if you've been a fan, you heard the tales of Vegas Jones on many of his older records. But hey, maybe it's just me. I find it weird Lupe always had this holier than thou viewpoint when you listen back to his music. While he for one knows how people like Chili and his many cousins he said are in the many gangs of Chicago, but instead he wants to be seen as this radical political figure. Y'all that has seen more than one of my videos know how I feel about the black bourgeoisie class and champagne socialists. Maybe that's why Lupe's career didn't turn out the way he wanted to. Which brings us to chapter 3, The Chosen One and the Fall of Mixtapes. So we finally made it to the meat of the topic. I don't know why I'm saying finally when most of y'all just watched the Empty Stadium Fire 17-hour video on Kendrick Lamar and Drake. I'm joking, I watched the whole thing. It was long as hell, but it was good. Also, thanks I guess to FD and Lil Bill for leaving me something to talk about. They both released a couple videos on hip hop the last few weeks, but neither really covered the mixtape or blog rap scene heavy, which I have to talk about so you can understand the full story. So as we talked about earlier, when Lupe dropped his first album, to us teenage rap fans, we thought he was up next. This new age Nas that will make conscious rap popping for this generation. Even though he debuted in 2004 in what I consider to be the most prevalent generation of gangster rap, Food and Liquor was considered really good. His second album, The Cool, is widely considered his best album, and he had a disappointing third with Lasers. I say disappointing because fans felt it wasn't really Lupe. Now, according to Lou, the studio pushed a more commercial sound and forced him to make it. To others in hip hop, it was Lupe's failed attempt to go commercial and show he can be a well-rounded artist. The thing is, it kind of worked. Now, rather you on Atlantic side, whose argument is that this is show business, not show friends, we need to make money off of these artists. Or you on Lupe's side, the label should not have any say in the artist's music. The fact of the matter is, The Show Goes On is Lupe's highest charting single of his career. Now, like most things, the truth is somewhere in the middle. I was a few weeks from turning 21 when this album released in 2011, and I was pretty lukewarm on this. I was in a different place in my life. For some reason, we were drinking liquor like Nuvo and Ciroc, and then hip hop began to change. We had officially entered the blog era. You see, mixtapes had always been huge in rap. Sharing, sampling, remixing, it's the core of hip hop. DJs like Clark Kent and Green Lantern, yes, those are real hip hop DJ names. Hip hop has always loved the nerd stuff. And DJ Drama all spanned different generations, but equally important. They would host mixtapes for the likes of 50 Cent and Lil Wayne, rapping over original beats, or more likely than not, beats of hit songs that had just come out. This is basically what turned Lil Wayne into a megastar. He flooded the streets with mixtapes. All of this just so happened to peak when record sales tanked and the music industry was in a bad place because of music piracy. Well, old Mr. Music Boss didn't like that. Artists like The Game, Lil Wayne rapping over beats labels paid for. But see, this is hip hop. We innovate and reuse and resample things, but capitalists don't understand that. DJ Drama Gangsta Grills was one of the hottest in the game.
Gangsta Grizzle!
At his height, DJ Drama was making $50,000 to $70,000 a month off of mixtape sales in the black market. If you was in the scene, we didn't even realize how big it was at the time. Everyone had drama tapes like Lil Wayne Dedication Series. I got mine from the bootleg man in high school. Let's say you want to play devil's advocate and say, yeah, but he was using other people's copyrighted music, yada yada. You gotta remember, from the mid 90s to mid 2000s, mixtapes were how we discovered new artists. They were a product of the streets and rap culture. Everyone from Jay-Z, Nas, Lupe, 50 Cent, T.I., Young Jeezy, Lil Wayne, all grew in popularity because of mixtapes. And the music industry and executives, more importantly as lawyers, didn't care because it was a give and take relationship. Basically free advertising. Early social media like MySpace and Facebook couldn't compete with hip hop fans trading albums at high schools and college campuses. A series of boring events I won't recap led to DJ Drama and DJ Cannon being raided by the goddamn FBI outside of their studio, arrested and charged with a RICO back in 2007. Y'all let me know who's y'all favorite mixtape and who had the best drops. For me, it was that Don Cannon. I don't know, I really liked it, especially that Finally Famous 3, that Big Sean. That John takes me back. Now, mixtapes didn't exactly die that day, but they had just been diagnosed with a life-threatening illness. Drama would later sign to a record label and make an official Gangsta Grillz album. Spoiler, he bounced all the way back. He's the reason all of your older cousins like me, who you didn't think like Tyler the Creator, got really hyped when it was announced that Drama was hosting Tyler's new album. Even a couple years after the raid, in 2009, Lupe Fiasco released the mixtape Enemy of the State. It was online only, rapping over hot beats that had previously been released. I don't fully know how 2 years later after the raid, we still got these freestyle mixtapes with all the lawyers and lawsuit sales, but that wouldn't last. And by 2011-ish, they had all but disappeared. That's why for us older hip hop fans, it's damn near impossible to tell the difference between a mixtape and an album. Nipsey Hussle Crenshaw tape might as well have been an album. That's the one he did the amazing marketing, selling 1,000 limited copies for $100 each, and he made $100,000 as an indie artist. But finally, back to Lupe Fiasco. See, the year 2011 is important. That's the year he released Lasers, and a lot of fans just kind of outgrew him. Most of his younger fans like me were now in their early to mid 20s. We outgrew that nerd rap, edgy, radical type shit. We aligned with this new era of rap. If you were outside back then, you had people that looked like you, dressed like you, and more relatable. And more importantly, they weren't talking down to you. Artists like The Cool Kids, Big Sean, Wale, J. Cole, Meek Mill, Big Crit, A$AP Rocky, and Kendrick Lamar had all showed up or released a mixtape during that 2009 to 2012 era when blog rap took over. And I know some of you self-proclaimed black nerds that still carry that stuff around are not going to like this, but women wasn't trying to hear no goddamn Lupe Fiasco. Not when Big Sean's Finally Famous 3 tape was out or Meek Mill House Party remix was banging. I'm sorry, but Lupe never adapted. He just came off as that weird guy spitting pull your pants up, old man yells at cloud rap. But it wasn't all just party music, even though we had some really good party music. This new generation of rappers was lyrical and making bops you could vibe to. Let's be real, women viewers, who was y'all trying to listen to? J. Cole and or Wale chill ass girl songs or Lupe Fiasco back then? The new guys that figured out the formula. If you were more fan of the lyrical type, you had Wale. He made music that hit the spot and wouldn't scare the women. J. Cole was lyrical enough to scratch that itch for you also and made joints women and casual fans enjoyed. Then by 2012, Kendrick Lamar was on the scene. Yeah, Overly Dedicated Section 80 was dope, but he was more of a rapper's rapper. He wasn't in the same lane as Big Sean or J. Cole yet. Then it all changed. Good Kid, Mad City, as I mentioned. This album at its time was seen as a classic upon release. He even brought back skits rap. I can't go on a 20-minute rant, but older fans know what I mean. Skits used to be on all rap albums, and most was like really bad, corny hood improv. But Kendrick Lamar made a visual movie with this album. And like sports, hip-hop is a competitive beast. And like every time some flashy high school kid, rather fair or not, is prompted to be the next so-and-so in the NBA, most times it doesn't work out. Sure, Luka is everything they said he would be as a 15-year-old over in Europe, but Zion never peaked like we thought he would. But Kendrick, he felt different.
Nah, cause he go in. Rosenberg goes in when it come to Kendrick. He's
Kendrick's
like,
out.
These nuts? Let me hug these. It's like,
Why are you
oh,
tight?
wow.
He's tight about it. Don't be tight.
I'm not tight. What am I tight about?
You don't love the album?
Hold on. What am I tight about?
This is good.
My passion for Kendrick's album.
Why would I be tight about that?
I don't know. Why
would I be tight about
Why
would I be tight about your personal opinion?
I don't know. You're calling me a nut hugger. That's not nut hugging.
You kind of nut hugging though. Transfer back real
Of the
quick.
young MCs.
Of the young MCs, I think lyrically, is King Los, is Logic, is Logic.
Logic over Kendrick,
right?
Love Logic.
Yes.
Over Kendrick.
Yes. What am I speaking French?
It must be. You must be speaking fucking Farsi. I don't know what you're saying.
Look how turned up he getting right now.
That clip of Rosenberg is how all of hip hop felt. Good Kid, Mad City was that good, but it's this time it was really only hardcore hip hop fans comparing Kendrick and Lupe, because let's be real. In 2014, when this interview happened, Kendrick had proven it wasn't just a moment and no one was really checking for Lupe. And that's what hurt him the most, no matter what he tells you. Fellas, y'all been around dudes and can tell the difference between jokes and hate. Ladies, y'all know when that one friend of a friend is throwing shade because you getting more attention than we all at the club or the bar? In 2014, the only discussion was who's the best rapper. J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar, and believe me if you want to or not, but Big Sean was in that discussion for a while. Keep in mind, a year later Big Sean will drop what's considered his best studio album, Dark Sky Paradise. The clip I played of Lupe Fiasco is not a one-off thing. It had been rumors for a couple years Lupe was jealous of Kendrick. And it may not have started with the Control verse, but that Control verse was seen as a slap in the face to Lupe Fiasco. In 2013, when Kendrick dropped that verse, that stirred up the rap industry. He named about 10 rappers he's seen as his competition and threatened to take their fans and career. Lupe was not named. In rap, this was seen as disrespectful. A year after Food and Liquor 2 had dropped. But fellas, be honest, no one was checking for that album. I had long moved on as a fan. But not being acknowledged on the most talked about verse in rap in maybe a decade was basically Kendrick saying, you aren't even worth me wasting a bar on. But can you blame him? You'll see it in the comments. It's a favorite talking point. FD Signifier even mentions it in one of his newer live streams when people ask him about it. The argument is always, well, Lupe is more lyrical, but Kendrick is better at making songs, albums, and flows. Now, FD is Chicago biased, so he gets a pass, but everybody else, you don't get points for doing less things good, especially in entertainment. It's the old Tim Duncan problem. Tim Duncan has 3 finals MVPs and 5 championships, but don't nobody want to be Timmy. He's Mr. Fundamental. Kids want to be LeBron James with only 4 rings, or Dwayne Wade with 3 rings. Hell, kids want to be Allen Iverson with 0 rings over Timmy. And Lupe is far from being a rap version of any of them. He's Ray Allen at best. Kendrick Lamar can make Daydreaming, but Lupe Fiasco cannot make DNA. Y'all probably noticed I haven't mentioned Drake yet. See, by the time it was clear the likes of Wale, K-Dot, J. Cole, and Meek would be around for a while, I wasn't listening to Drake. Even before the Ghostwriter review, he was just seen as corny. He had women fans, but he's also always had the most annoying, casual, and white hip-hop fans. And unless it's a bag involved, like we seen with Gilly the Kid, who begging for a Drake interview clearly, and all of those battle rappers, all the rap fans I know always looked at Drake as a different tier. Dude was just corny. This was pre-TikTok music era. A rap was very diverse. Big Crit had parts of the South on lock. Pusha T was making amazing Dope Boy records if Rick Ross wasn't your style. But those Rick Ross and MLG compilation albums, they were like, they really sound so 2010, but you just had to be there. And after a few years, the blog era rappers started to separate themselves. Big Sean peaked with the mixtape Detroit and began to go commercial after some good success. J. Cole dropped 2 albums that still divide rap fans on the quality. That being 2014 Forest Hill Drive and then 4 Year Eyes Only. And he began focusing on his artists he signed to his label. Meek Mill and Wale both had success in their own lanes. Meek with more hood rap and high energy, but he never quite bounced back from his loss to Drake. And Wale, who I feel is the most underrated rapper of that generation, he just never got the success he felt he deserved. But he's had the most consistent catalog. Yes, he's an emotional Virgo and makes it easy to hate on him. But if you into this generation of black women that would have been at a Lauryn Hill concert in 1998 and love luxury hype beast rap, Wale is probably still in your regular rotation. And that only left Kendrick Lamar. He would follow up Good Kid, Mad City 2 years later with To Pimp a Butterfly in 2017. Something so different, it set him apart from everyone. He talked in an interview about taking such a risk with this album. He reached out to Jay-Z, him and Top, and after listening, Jay told him, listen, once you drop this, they'll never be able to put you or TDE the label in the box. 2 years after that, he released the album Damn. Now, I don't know what some people on the internet talking about in their videos, but in many online rap circles, To Pimp a Butterfly was universally praised. He then showed he can make more commercial music with Damn. A year after that, he EPs the Black Panther album from Marvel, showing off a lot of new faces, and one of the few good movie soundtracks we've gotten since that really stopped being a thing. Then in 2022, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. So by 2022, Kendrick had dropped 4 solo albums in a 10-year period, cementing him as this generation's greatest, most accomplished rapper. Even if you weren't a fan of his music, any real rap fan had to admit he has bars and substance.
At the time, Lupe tweeted, I'll put it to you like this. K-Dot is not a top-tier lyricist to me and my standards when it comes to punchlines and bars. His overall lyrics are good, his story's phenomenal, but punchline, entendre, lyrically, I don't see it. Lupe also added, also, the only issue that the world thinks I have with K-Dot, and I actually do, is that I think his control verse was whack and super overhyped to be a verse claiming you are the best rapper. It was very weird. I was told it was just bait, but still. I honestly haven't listened to either record, other than accidental little things scrolling through social media and seeing the sample of the lyrics typed on memes. Other than that, I'm in the dark on the whole thing, and will remain so. Next tweet. I don't really care. Good night. Eid Mubarak. Lupe Fiasco has made a bold claim amid the ongoing rap wars, and he said that Drake is a better rapper than Kendrick Lamar. Speaking on X Spaces with A-Verb on Monday, April 15th, Lupe admitted that he has not heard Kendrick's diss verse on Future and Metro Boomin's Like That, but said that he listened to and enjoyed Drake's response track, Push Ups, Drop and Give Me 50. When asked who is the better rapper between the two, Lupe replied without hesitation,
Drake or Kendrick?
Drake.
Drake is a better rapper than Kendrick. Do you like? Okay, so is it by a long shot?
Not really. Drake got bars, which you know.
Okay.
And you know that. So you know I ain't capping when I say
for sure.
Right. So I would give it to Drake. I think Kendrick's a better technically skilled performer, but I don't think he's a better rapper.
Perform.
Yeah, that's a difference.
Jump to the beef with Drake. I'm not recapping that entire battle, but Drake got out-rapped and out-Draked. I'm not saying Lupe has to pick Kendrick as a winner, but going from I don't even need to listen to them to I heard one of Drake's records, none of Lupe's, and Drake won, he has to understand why people think he's a weirdo hater, right? Like, that's very clear at this point, isn't it? And that last clip is him being salty about the Control verse. I don't know what hurts Lupe more. The fact Kendrick didn't mention him in the Control verse, or the fact Lupe then made a diss track everyone ignored and Kendrick has never acknowledged. You see, it's so much more disrespectful when guys like Lupe and Jay Electronica be hating on Kendrick and can't even get a reply. Not only that, but Lupe is afraid to stand 10 toes down. He throws passive-aggressive shots, then want to be like, oh, no, I didn't mean that.
Lupe then later on apologized for his comments, writing, maybe I should have just left it alone. Even though my impetus was the Control verse, I mean, you put yourself out there like that, so you opened yourself up to critique. I apologize for even engaging and talking about careers. I'll never do that again. Lupe eventually caught wind of the Complex article about rappers apologizing to Kendrick, and he responded claiming that he wasn't actually apologizing to Kendrick per se. Lupe wrote, relax yo, I wasn't apologizing to him, lol. I was sorry about the entire shindig because it was such a waste of time and energy and something that had nothing to do with me. Keep my name clean. I fear no rapper of any kind or any time. K-Dot solid, but y'all need to chill, lol.
But he then claims that wasn't a real apology and tries to cop a plea again. Like, dog, we know you think you're smarter than everyone, Lupe. We know you think that, but the fans not dumb. We know hate when we see it. Like me, it's a few video essays and commentary channels I respect, but it's way more, I think, corny as hell that talk down to regular black folks, pander to white liberals, women, and other groups that they think will build their channel and views up, otherwise known as wave riders. But it's for you all, the viewers, to decide. You all judge art who's genuine. I can sit and pretend like I'm the biggest supporter and #1 fan of women's sports reviews, or I can be honest and say I have a favorite woman boxer, Clarissa Shields from Michigan, who's running the entire game in the face of women's boxer, or tell you since Coach K retired, Dawn Staley is basically the most well-known coach in college basketball. That's men or women's division. I can sit and pretend like I was outside and part of the 2010 sneakerhead wave, but then if I act like New Balance is having a moment, my DMV folks at DC, Maryland, Virginia gonna be like, nah, John tripping. Cause they, and I know, they've been on New Balances a good 20 plus years. I remember back in 2012, days going back to Burn Rubber in Royal Oak, Michigan, and seeing New Balance colorways and styles no one else in Michigan was selling besides maybe Puffer Reds and Ipsy. You see, no matter if I never have another collab featured in the video or get a shout out, y'all that consume my content and the ones that was really part of these moments can tell who's genuine, who's not, who really knows what they talk about, and who see a trend on Twitter or TikTok, ran to make a quick reaction video and turn it into some culture wars content. It's the reason the culture loves Kendrick Lamar through his genre-bending music, because we know he loves hip-hop, the culture, and its people. Sadly, the same can't be said about Lupe Fiasco. When Kendrick got success, he made sure his TDE label partners got love. Schoolboy Q, J-Rock, Ab-Soul, and SZA. Who was Lupe put on? Who was he showed love to? Logic? You're not gonna say with a straight face he truly believes Logic is a better rapper than Kendrick Lamar. Logic don't even think Logic is a better rapper than Kendrick Lamar. Before y'all go, I have a clip of my new solo podcast. It's called Retro Review. Only rule is the album has to be a minimum of 15 years old. We didn't give it a new listen before the episode is recorded. I give an updated review. I pull up old reviews from Pitchfork and Rolling Stone. This would be from whatever the newest episode is. And if you miss when I do the live stream on this channel, edited episodes are on my podcast channel. So make sure you subscribe to both of them. I'm out. I woke up out that coma 2001, about the same time Dre dropped 2001. Raps the Game on Dream. And that pretty much summarizes his career. A really good rapper with lies and exaggerations, because any hip hop fans know that The Chronic 2001 released in 1999. So how did The Game listen to this about the same time that Drake dropped that album? It's a good song, but is a lie. So the documentary came out in 2005. It's actually one of my favorite albums of that time period. But it could pretty much be summarized as name dropping and lies. Because I listened to this drawing a couple times. I gave it the car test. Also, you all let me know in the comments and stuff. Do y'all still even do the car test? Like younger generations, I know y'all don't even really care about driving like that. But like my generation back in the day, if you had a car, as soon as the album come out, you want to listen to it on your headphones and you want to listen to it in the car. Just something about, especially rap and hip hop, sounds so much different in the car. But I listened to this album in the car. It still bangs. Like it's some of the best production. And of course, if you ask 50 Cent, he's going to tell you that this basically was supposed to be his second album. He gave so many of these songs to The Game and helped them write. Early in The Game's career, he wasn't the best writer. And, you know, The Game and 50, they had a falling out. And those two of the most petty men in hip hop. So he's constantly bringing that up. But as an album, the documentary is really good. But some of the big events, just to kind of shape your memory when this came out, is in 2005, YouTube first launched. And the first video ever was Kevin at the Zoo or something like that. I don't remember. Reddit was also launched. I don't know if the website launched, but it said it was like established or something like that. And it's 2005. So while you listening to The Game, you might have been watching Harvey Birdman on Adult Swim, C-Lab 2020. Later that year, Xbox 360 would come out. This was 2005. So AJ and Free were still on 106 and Park. We used to rush home from school on them Fridays, waiting for Freestyle Friday. 106 and Park was like TRL for black kids. I had an older sister who was into like pop music and boy bands, and she used to watch TRL. I hated it. My shit was 106 and Park. But the big one of 2005 was Hurricane Katrina, and that's the year that Kanye West did his infamous George Bush doesn't care about black people. If you seen FD Signifier video about Kanye West was never good, he talks about why that was such a big moment, because, you know, it's not like now where it's normal to speak out about politics. This was when America was in their highest, like most super political phase. It was only a couple years after 9/11. They tried to ruin a Dixie Chick's career. I think it did get derailed for a few years. But yeah, 2005 was a different time. And this was probably the biggest West Coast album since Dr. Dre's Chronic 2001, which I said, of course, released in 1999. He just called it Chronic 2001 because the sound was supposed to be so much, you know, so far ahead of everything that was out. But yeah, this album is really good. I'm probably going to do 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying, just because I want to see whose album aged better. But just from a rapping standpoint and the production, this has some of the best production of that era. We have West Side Story with 50 Cent, like their flow bouncing off of each other. Dream, which I already mentioned, where he just starts off lying. I don't know what's up with JCN. I really think he might be like schizophrenic or something. I've never seen anything like it. Like to this day, this man is insane a little bit. Like he just likes to start random beef with nobody. Y'all could probably drop comments in the comments of this video of people he's beefed with. He somehow beefed with Sean Kingston of all people. Then Meek Mill got involved in it. I think he took shots at Jay-Z. He's always been known to name drop women that he's either been in relationships with or spread rumors that he's been in relationships with. Like, The Game is a weirdo, man. if he wasn't such a weirdo, I feel like he would be in a lot of people's top 5, or at least top 5 of that 2000s. But he did so much goofy stuff that a lot of people just didn't want to support him, you know? But man, this album has so many bangers. We start off with the intro, West Side Story with 50 Cent, Dream, Hate It or Love It with 50 Cent, Higher, How We Do with 50 Cent, Don't Need Your Love with Faith Evans, Church for Thugs, Put You on a Game, Start from Scratch, the documentary, Running, No More Fun and Games, the joint with Eminem, We Ain't, Where I'm From, Special, Don't Worry with Mary J. Blige, and like Father Like Son with Busta Rhymes. Like, man, it's so, I don't think it's a single skip on this album. And I'm gonna give my official score before we go into, we doing a Pitchfork score today. Earlier, I did say before the recording, I usually do 2. I've been doing Pitchfork and Rolling Stone. Something happened that it wasn't archived properly. If you go on a link, it's a dead link, so you can't pull up Rolling Stone's review of it. But yeah, man, so much of this album, like, I'm listening to it like, Jesus Christ, it's got a lot of banger. Dr. Dre went crazy on the production. I'm trying to remember who else on it, but some of the standout tracks, like one of my favorite is the final record on here, Like Father Like Son with Busta Rhymes. Like, Buster does an amazing job on the hook, like doing the hooks and the ad lib. Like, I feel like Buster is one of the most underrated rappers as far as my generation. I feel like we don't give Busta Rhymes enough credit. He's kind of like, he's like the previous generation Ludacris. Like, both of them can rap, but also they kind of like these party artists and just super duper high energy, but a little, you know, not a little, a lot more lyrical than someone like Lil Jon, who you think of as an artist like that. But yeah, Busta Rhymes works surprisingly perfect on the hook with Like Father Like Son. And he has what, 3 different tracks on this with 50 Cent, West Side, Hate It or Love It, and How We Do. I would say How We Do is probably the biggest one, but it's hard for me to pick between that and Hate It or Love It. They just really vibe together. And if G Unit hadn't fallen apart, we could have gotten a whole lot more music with them. And especially at that time, you know, you got to remember, this is 2005. This is less than 10 years since Biggie and Pac died. I think Pac died in 94 and Biggie died in 96. So, you know, it's only 9 years after Biggie died. So, you know, the East Coast, West Coast stuff had ended, but we didn't really, I felt like this was like the first big record of this much of the East Coast artists and West Coast artists working together. So this was big at the time. Higher is another joint that just was crazy. But Don't Need Your Love with Faith Evans, like her vocals, and it's like a great R&B track. So much of this album works really good, but then you get to him basically name dropping on every single record. Like, it is insane. You forget how much he name drops, especially if you listen to other rap. Like, nobody else does that. I'm trying to think. You just think of any celebrity, he name drops Jay-Z, random R&B artists, Eminem, 50 Cent, of course, even though 50 Cent is on the album, and that's kind of been Game's thing. It's just kind of weird, man. I don't know, man. It's so excessive that it's always in the back of your mind, like, man, he constantly name drops. But as far as rapping skills, it really balances the production. I've talked about in the past sometimes that a rapper, the beats can be so good that they can kind of hide behind it, but these beats, they really work well with the game, and it's like it never feels overbalanced. Like, y'all, it lost the vote. We were going to do T.I. episode a couple weeks ago. We'll eventually get to it, but Lil Wayne ended up winning for the South rapper they wanted to hear. But I was listening to a T.I. album, and like some of his tracks, like one, it'll be like a clear hit, like club banger, and then another one, the production is just kind of weak. It's like a weak B-side. But this album, it had to be crazy expensive because it really doesn't have any B-side tracks. And that's especially for 18 records. That's something that we really didn't see or hear back in like 05. Even some of my favorite records from that era, you can tell, you know, these are kind of the B-sides, but pretty much any record on this could have been released as a single. I can't even remember how many of these were released as singles, and they were just, how many were just popular. Like Put You on a Game, that could have been a club banger. And on top of not just the rapping and stuff, but the production, it's only a couple that sound like early 2000s, but besides that, pretty much all of these probably could have been released in 2024 and still work. Another record that's really slept on is Running with Tony Yayo. I wish we could have got more tracks with Game and Yayo before, you know, G Unit broke up and all of that. Yeah, man, this is a really solid album.